Young Yi. I am 99 years old, and on behalf of the Helen and Joe Chu Foundation, I would like to thank you for your donation. We promise to be good stewards of your donation and trust. We will put it to good use.
Good job.
According to that book my brother had, the search for the genealogy thing, we're about 16 or 17 generations of the Chu Dynasty, I guess. We all live together as one family because his kids are about our age too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Used to hire teachers from San Francisco during the summer to teach the Chinese kids. They used to hire people from San Francisco, spend the summer teaching kids.
He was, he had to go to a funeral or something, and he was riding in the car with my cousin. So I guess still had his door. The door was open. He had it to close, and the gal slammed the door. I guess got infection after that. And so he came up to San Francisco for a doctor and all that stuff. But
You were born in Rebel.
oh yeah, my sister. Oh, I was going to ask you. You know where the Yen building is?
I don't think so.
You know where Rio Street is?
Yeah.
And Walnut Street?
Yeah.
The big brick building?
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in that building, yeah.
Holy smokes.
Mother likes to gamble, likes to play cards and all that. And my dad's real religious, so every time you see him coming home from work, they pull up the cards and put it away. California Cafe.
California.
You know where the railroad track is?
Yeah.
There used to be a depot there,
Okay.
Our restaurant is right across the street from the depot.
Ah.
Stew and pot roast, beef pot roast, and short rib. I love short ribs though. Now short ribs are expensive.
Yeah.
Not like the old days, and they're pretty cheap.
Was it pork?
Beef stew, I had a menu too, I think. I don't know what happened to it now.
he got out of the army, and he didn't really have that much of a home life. When he got out of the army, he spent time in RB, and he stayed. And he got to be pretty good friends with Grandpa.
Berkeley, when the war started out, and because a lot of these kids went off to war, right? There's different business open.
Yeah.
My folks wanted to move down to Berkeley.
Yeah.
To open up a restaurant there, right on Shattuck.
Yeah.
You
Should have.
I should have, yeah.
All those buildings, because by the time there was only two buildings left, the community one and the one that the Chu family used to live in. And I think that, as I remember, I don't know, because I was only about 10, 15 years old, and I didn't know the detail. But we did tear the community house down first, and then the last house to go was 838, fast to get someplace else to go, and it so happened that this restaurant was not doing as well, so we offered them a price, and they took it, and that's why we moved over there, because it had a full basement and it had the restaurant part in the middle, and then upstairs they divided up for bedrooms and stuff. So.
college.
How come the girls didn't go to college?
They didn't have enough money to send them. They'd rather give the boys the education.
And how late did you stay open?
We used to stay open until 2 o'clock, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
When?
Really?
They used to have the 4 Mile house, you know, that's 4 miles from town, north of town.
Okay.
They used to have a bar there and dancing and so forth. So after they closed up, and then they head for the main terrace sometime.
How about
School, I came back to run the restaurant, yeah. There used to be a lot of, we're right on the main highway before they had I-5, right?
Okay.
So the senior station was across the street, and there was another gas station on the right. And they used to send us a lot of customers, you know,
Okay.
that used to stop there at the Chevron. Yeah.
Did you give them a discount?
We give them free coffee and stuff.
I never really took steps to register for college. I don't recall my high school teachers even mentioning it. Could have been because I wasn't listening. In the fall of 1951, 3 of my high school friends were driving to California State University in Chico to register for classes, and they'd asked if I'd like to go along for the ride. My 3 friends went through the line to pick up their paperwork. As I was just standing there, the registrar looked at me puzzled and asked, "Why are you here?" I told him I would probably like to attend with my friends. "Well, if you'd like to attend, what is your average GPA in high school?" I said I was around a B average. He took down my name and address and said, "I'll tell you what, I'll put you down for a potential registrant for now until we receive your grade transcript." At that time, Cal State Chico had an enrollment of only about 1,700 students. It was much simpler times. I loved being in the outdoors. I was always out hunting and fishing. Trout fishing on the numerous tributary streams that fed into the Sacramento River was one of my favorite pastimes in the spring and summer. In the fall and winter, dove and duck hunting. While at Cal State Chico, I was able to spend 2 summers in 1953 and 54 as an aide for California Department Fish and Game. I was in charge of stream improvement and worked with teams at Eagle Lake, which was located in the northeast corner of California. Almost every one of the 12 fisheries biologists I ran into said the best fisheries program in the United States was at the University of Washington in Seattle. As I neared graduation at Cal State Chico in the spring of 1955, I wrote to Dean Richard Van Cleve at the University of Washington College of Fisheries and included my 3.5-year grade transcript to see if I would qualify for graduate studies or possibly an assistantship. He wrote back to me a couple weeks later and offered me an assistantship on salmon behavior. I showed up at the University of Washington in June of 1955, but the program wasn't ready to start until September. So Dr. Van Cleve arranged employment that summer by sending me to the Washington Department of Fisheries in Seattle. He arranged for me to serve as a seasonal aide at the Point Whitney Shellfish Laboratory in Hood Canal. The last thing on my mind was shellfish, which I knew absolutely nothing about. When I arrived at the lab, they asked if I knew anything about plant physiology or botany. I told them I almost majored in botany at Cal State Chico. That apparently was enough. They then assigned me to work on a study to determine the effects of chemical algal repellent applied to diatomaceous melicera growth, which were fouling up native oyster beds. Through this, I was given the opportunity to test different techniques to control the Japanese oyster drill, Tertinalia ocinabra japonica, which was a major predator for young Pacific Olympia oysters. It was an absolutely unforgettable experience. While present at the lab, the biological staff of Cedric Lindsay, Ron Wesley, and Chuck Wolke all kept pushing me through the summer to major in invertebrate species, or shellfish, at the University of Washington. They needed more biologists in this area, as too many were going into salmon and trout behavior studies. One of the impressionable sights that struck me from the beginning at Point Whitney was the abundance of natural wild shellfish, such as Pacific oysters, manila clams, mussels, and available pots to catch spot prawns and crab in Hood Canal, and we often caught 2 to 3 pound rockfish and filleted them out. It was so fun and easy. Rock scallops were quite abundant, and they were found in the rock walls of the intertidal zones, and thus I ate mostly from off the land. It was also a wonderful summer learning from Cedric, Ron, and Chuck. They taught me all about shell fishery and what it was all about. Their tutelage really stuck with me. When I returned to take on the University of Washington salmon behavior research, I must admit that one summer spent at Point Whitney influenced me, and I considered switching to invertebrate species and shellfish when I returned to the University of Washington in the fall. After 6 months of studying salmon behavior and no means of financial support, I made the decision to drop from the assistantship and switch to invertebrate species under Dr. James Lynch. I managed to secure an hourly job in 1956 under Dr. Alan DeLacy, taking care of the school's saltwater aquarium. After a couple years, I completed my master's science thesis research on the feeding behavior of the Japanese oyster drill. Notably, this was probably the only master's science thesis ever to be conducted at the University of Washington's on-campus saltwater aquarium. The recycled saltwater aquarium had a large holding tank on the top floor of the old fisheries center. In the 1950s, it was specifically built for the then College of Fisheries. From what I recall, the college's RV commando vessel came later, and that was used to secure fresh seawater from northern Puget Sound. It was used on a regular basis to add new salt water when the pH dropped to a certain level.
The school's aquarium, although small, was a good attraction to visitors. I was constantly showing and describing the animals and fish that were in the different tanks. One learns quickly which organism can best survive in our systems. The added experience I gained from my work at the aquarium was valuable towards understanding the care of specimens brought in from their natural environment. Also, it opened the door on a 25-year interaction with the director and staff of the downtown Seattle Aquarium. Several of my graduate students used their tanks and facilities holding shellfish for their research needs throughout the year. Upon completing my Master's of Science degree, my wife Megan had finished her Bachelor of Arts in Education, and we went through commencement proceedings together in June of 1958. I needed to figure out the next steps as she would soon begin teaching. Dr. Albert K. Sparks had just moved from Texas A&M University to take over a position held by Dr. James Lynch, who had just retired. Dr. Sparks was very active in the studies of oyster pathology and the culture of Gulf Coast oysters. He was also very active in the National Shell Fisheries Association. Upon his arrival in the fall of 1958, he asked me to be his very first PhD student. He was a mentor for me, taking me to many meetings and introducing me to key shellfish researchers in the Gulf and East Coast. Sparks eventually paved the way for me to stay at the University of Washington and build the shellfish and aquaculture program with him. After a brief time at the University of Washington, he opted to return to Texas A&M University. With my active involvement in the National Shell Fisheries Association, I also became more involved with a new World Mariculture Society, or WMS. The WMS started developing in the Gulf Coast states with lead from Louisiana State University, Auburn University, Texas A&M University, and other universities nationally and internationally. Because I was attending most of their annual meetings and held office in the WMS, I was voted in as president in 1977. World Mariculture Society was quick to grow and eventually changed to the new prestigious World Aquaculture Society that would spawn a number of affiliate chapters in the global arena. In the early 70s and especially by early 80s, many of our UW faculty were gaining influence in other aquaculture programs. Areas involving the environment including ecology, physiology, diseases, basic marine sciences, food and nutrition, and genetics of commercial species. There was a common message and emphasis on the influence of aquaculture I was attempting to research and promote.
But the big push toward research studies into shellfish and other aquaculture issues was already evident nationally and globally in the 60s and 70s. In the early 70s, the Sea Grant program in United States Commerce was put into place by Congress and showed special interest in aquaculture. The University of Washington was chosen to be one of the universities to house the Sea Grant program. This was significant news for potential research studies in marine organisms, commercial or otherwise. We were able to apply and received several Sea Grant funded studies which led to projects such as the potential development of an oyster growing operation at Big Beef Creek Manila clam culture at several Puget Sound locations, oyster disease and genetics research, start mussel farming operations at Penn Cove, oyster triploid work, and others. The shellfish aquaculture program blossomed in the early 80s for undergraduate and graduate instruction. I would be remiss to leave out that I always felt a need for a good seawater source and shellfish hatchery facility to complement the practical science and training needs in our shellfish programs. Several private commercial hatcheries were already operating, and class field trips were the norm. However, I felt there was a need for a more specific hands-on hatchery class. We already had the salmon and trout hatchery class on campus as part of our aquaculture thrust of instruction. Thus, I spent at least 2 years searching for a potential seawater operation close by to set up a small hatchery operation to add to our program. It would have to have opportunities for the growing of algae food and space for conditioning, spawning, and developing oyster and or clam seed. Even the downtown Seattle aquarium was checked for this possibility with no luck. Then we were fortunate to hear that Conrad Monken and others at the United States National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, informally known as the National Marine Fisheries Services Manchester Northwest Fisheries Center for Research, that several small vacant buildings on the dock at Clam Bay would be available for our temporary use, as it is situated over a good seawater source. It was perfect for our needs, and we were able to implement the small temporary shellfish hatchery operation for instruction with some expansion for other shellfish holding needs and studies. This teaching and research facility was in operation for over 11 years, which also complemented many of the needs of studies mentioned in 10th event for holding and transport needs. With much thanks and gratitude for this opportunity from the United States National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration's National Marine Fisheries Service, and especially for Hal Beatty becoming part of my teaching team by being my hatchery manager and the main instructor at this facility, as well as the University of Washington campus for all those years. Director Robert Bergner and Assistant Director Roy Nakatani of the Fisheries Research Institute saw the shift in that local, national, and in the international arena we were moving heavily towards aquaculture. We spoke at length about this, and in 1982 decided to develop the Division of Aquaculture and Invertebrate Fishery Center that lasted through 1986. When the United States Department of Agriculture and Western Regional Aquaculture Center was established at University of Washington, it was then changed to Division of Aquaculture under FRI in 1987. At this point, we can look back to 1980 after a government of the People's Republic of China shift in policy to allow scientists to visit aquaculture sites and exchange information. The United States Commerce Department asked me to represent the United States as a member of the 6th delegate team. Bill Hogert from the United States Department of Agriculture was a part of this delegation. After the visit, I presented a summary report to the appropriate subcommittees in Congress with pictures on how well organized the Chinese were on practical approaches utilized to extensively grow fish and other organisms. Bill Hogarth's involvement here was significant, as he was influential in supporting funding for the 4 centers of aquaculture excellence in the new Farm Bill.
The delegation's trip to China was timely to see how the country was the top producer of aquaculture products in the world. Haugert and the other scientists on the trip were encouraged by the efforts of Sea Grant and the United States National Oceanic Atmospheric Administrations on how the United States Department of Agriculture could do their part and expand their perspective. Prior to this, efforts were primarily focused on supporting catfish farming, private, local, state, and federal fish hatcheries. While the United States Department of Agriculture was somewhat familiar on aquaculture, Haugert now realized the importance, and there was a noted shift in the attitude and support. As a result, programs were given the green light to request and organizationally establish funding, leadership, and administration on this impactful industry. Glad to say this trip was the nexus for the effort. 5 schools noted they were interested of the support of these centers and interested in being the site for the administrative center. Alaska, Idaho, University of California, Davis, Oregon State, and Washington. all formed a consortium to approach the United States Department of Agriculture for consideration. During this time, I focused on bringing this Western Center, comprised of 11 states, to be placed at the University of Washington School of Fisheries. During this period of consideration, because of the foundational work during the 70s through the 90s, the reputation of the school was at an all-time high. The shellfish and aquaculture program was widely recognized. Dr. Robert Snickty, with a background in aquaculture, had come on board as director of the School of Fisheries during this period, which helped a great deal. At the final meeting, we all shared how our universities would support the Western Regional Aquaculture Center as the administrative center. I had several discussions with Dean, Dr. Ross Heath, and others within UW administration. The key was Dr. Heath providing $75,000 of renovation funding and expenses to convert the old library space. After thorough discussions by the 5 universities, there was a unanimous support for the Administrative Center office to be located at the University of Washington's College of Ocean and Fisheries Sciences in the School of Fisheries. In 1987, I was elated to see the Western Regional Aquaculture Center Administrative Center now be located at the University of Washington. It was a culmination and commitment to stay on course of the vision. First stumbling into attending Chico State College, the life experiences leading up to the shellfish leadership roles, and advocacy in the growing profession and industry of aquaculture on a private, local, national, and international arena. I am humbled and blessed to see all that has happened and the accomplishments of the Western Regional Aquaculture Center headquarters being at the University of Washington. Seeing the continued support by the United States Department of Agriculture over the years is affirmation. It's gratifying to know that aquaculture research and extension studies for any of the 11 Western regional states will be supported for years to come.
So the picture
How
you
did you happen to see this in the sign?
So I saw that a Mexican restaurant went in there.
Yeah, right. They just
wondering-
did last year and 2 years ago.
Yes. And I was wondering what happened to the sign because, I have fond memories of going and eating there. And then I tracked it down to the company that were doing the work for the Guadalajaras there.
Oh, yeah.